at 7 o'clock. I guess we have no mics tonight, correct? So we speak loud.
Always a
All right. This is the Town of Saugus Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. I'd like to introduce first the board members. Mr. Peter Rossetti, Ms. Stephanie Romano, Mr. Christopher Riley, John Cannon, Frank Federico, Stacy Herman, myself, Tom Travis, I'm chairman. The way we normally conduct business is generally informal. We follow the agenda as it appears in the newspaper or advertisement. If anyone is under some personal pressure and needs to be heard out of order, please let it be known to the chair at this time. Noting none, I will continue. You are in front of the board basically for two reasons, or three things. One is a variance to do dimensional relief, a special permit to do something to your property, or an appeal against a decision of the building inspector. I've asked all the members to view the property and to be prepared to make decisions this evening if we have enough information presented to us at this hearing. Once the board has made its decision, the clerk will have 14 days to prepare the decision and get that decision to the town clerk to be stamped in and filed as an official record. Our clerk, Stephanie, can take care of it and go through all the 21 days and how that works afterwards. And you can see her, talk to her first thing Monday morning, and she'll go through the process with you. If at the end of the 21-day appeal period, there's no appeal filed with the town clerk, you may get a copy of the board's decision, time-stamped by the clerk, and you need then to take that to copy to the Salem Register of Deeds to get it recorded in your deed of record. Once this is done, you will have the decision, which now has a recording number, back to the Inspectional Service Department in Town Hall to request your permits. After completing the necessary paperwork and paying the necessary fees, the building inspector can issue you permits based on any conditions that we put on it this evening. Are there any questions? At this time, I would like to ask everyone who wishes to speak this evening to be sworn in at one time. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. I'd also like veteran John Cannon to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and please stand if you're able to do so.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so the first thing we have tonight on the agenda is on the petition of, I apologize for pronouncing names wrong, Philemon Abadi, owner of property at 7 Blue Ridge Ave, lot number 5 through 11, plan number 1030, seeking a special permit to add a second-story roof dormer on the rear of the existing house and for a variance for a pre-existing 4.4 front yard setback where 20 feet is required. And the petition is here.
Yep, I'm here. How you doing? My name is Philemon Abadi. I live on 7 Blue Ridge Ave in Saugus.
Okay.
And
And
this is
you also
David.
have Mr. Dwyer with you? And Stephanie, I'm sure, has his information. Give us an idea of what you're looking to do.
David Dwyer for the record, Audie and Dwyer Land Surveyors, Appleton Street in Saugus. I represent Philemon. The proposal is to raise the rear of the property, of the existing structure with a full dormer. The setback requirements are not met in the front. They are met on the sides and the rear. There's no change in the footprint. You may or may not have full set of plans. If you'd like them, I brought some copies for the construction of it.
And what is the property exists of now? How many, the bedroom count and the room count?
There's 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom.
Right now, and what is it gonna be after the dorm?
It's an additional bathroom, so 2 bathrooms after the door.
It's all a 3-bedroom home.
Yep, still a 3-bedroom home.
Thank you.
I need somebody to share.
That's okay. Thank you.
Get a copy to Frank, he knows how to read them. Do I have any questions from the board?
Just the question is this going to increase or the height or leave it the same?
It's gonna go into the same ridge. So if you look on one of the pages of the plans I just laid out,
Yeah,
it's about halfway down on my plan, you can see in red, that's gonna meet the same height, which is 22.3.
so no increase in the height?
No increase in the height, no increase in the footprint. The only variance required is the enclosed porch in the front is only at 4.2 feet from the street.
Yeah.
So it's
That's
not,
pre-existing, right?
it's pre-existing, yes. So it's a pre-existing non-conforming, just adding a dormer to the roof. 4.4 in the front yard setback, where 20 is required. The minimum side yard is 15, we have 61.3, and the minimum rear yard is 15, we have 53.1. And you can, the existing lot coverage area, max building area is 25 required, and we're at 10.8. So, and that's not gonna change, it's existing.
Any other questions from the board?
Is the dormer going the full length of the house, or is it just the bathroom?
Full length of the back, so split the house from the front to the back. Do you have a copy of the,
I'm just looking at the proposed rear elevation, and it's just showing a middle section of the roof.
right. Yeah, so it's halfway, there's a ridge there now.
Right.
That ridge will be pushed towards the rear of the property,
Okay.
and then straight back down into the wall supporting the rear.
Any more questions from the board? Yes.
Is the porch going to, enclosed porch going to remain the same, or is it?
It's gonna remain the same.
Oh, remain the same?
Do I have any questions from the audience? All right, I got a motion to close.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Riley, you'd like to read it?
Sure. On the petition of Philmon Abadi, owner of the property at 7 Blue Ridge Ave, lot number 511, plan number 1030, seeking a special permit to add a 2nd-story roof dormer on the rear of the existing house.
Stop.
Make the motion to grant this special permit, where it's the finding of the board that the proposed addition would not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing nonconformity.
Do I have a second? Remains a single family even though on today's guidelines by right,
Why not?
they have to inform us if they had a
Yeah.
unit. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Stephanie?
Mr. Rossetti?
Yes.
Ms. Romano?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes?
Mr. Federico?
Yes.
Mr. Travis?
Yes. And now the variance?
Yep. Again, on the same petition, for the variance for a pre-existing 4.4-foot front yard setback where 20 feet is required, make the motion to grant the variance where it's the finding of the board that the variance is granted due to the shaped soil and topography which affect the land and the position of the house on the lot.
Second.
With the same condition, remains a single-family home.
That's been seconded by Mr. Rossetti. And Stephanie?
Mr. Rossetti?
Yes.
Ms. Romano?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes?
Mr. Federico?
Yes.
Mr. Travis?
Yes. You're all set?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good luck.
Second, on the petition of John Cacciatore, I again apologizing for names, owns the property at 25 Warmison Avenue, lot number 3839, plan number 2033, seeking a special permit for a 12 by 20, one-story addition and a variance for a pre-existing 15.4 front yard setback where 20 is required, pre-existing 9.5 yard setback where 15 is required, and a 33.6 proposed lot coverage where 25 is required. And if John and Chris, if you want to set out on this one. Or, I'm sorry, Frank and Chris. Okay?
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. And the petitioner's here, Mr. Dwyer's representing you again?
Yes, David Dwyer, Audie and Dwyer, 59 Appleton Street. I represent John Cacciatore. We're here again. This is our second time around because when the construction started, he realized that there was a lot more work that needed to be done to the house for the variance that was granted back in this past July. So he's proposing to add a 12 by 20 foot area, and that's highlighted in red on the plan. It's a single-story addition. It's just filling in a corner of the house. That proposed addition would meet the setback requirements of 24.3 and 22.5. So the prior variance that was granted was recorded, and that's under my general notes as well. The front yard is an existing home even prior to the addition that's under construction currently. It's at 15.4 feet. The minimum side yard is 9.5 feet, which is to the right of the existing home, the original home. And the minimum rear yard is 15.5 feet, which is part of the original home. So the addition that we're proposing now is adding to it. It also increases the footprint area to 33.6, where 25 was prior. 25 is required.
Okay. I mean, my thinking is when we go to this type of lot coverage, we just want to make sure that we have the necessary parking for the property. I know there's 3 garages, but I don't really see.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, there is a 2-car garage on the existing home, and the new addition that is closer to Lonsdale Street, that is, how many cars in that?
I could put 4.
Yeah, so it's probably a 3-car garage. It goes deep.
Oh, it's all right.
Yeah.
And is there a business being run out of the property or?
No.
Okay. You do know if at some point you can only have 1 marked vehicle outside.
Yeah.
If that changes at some point. Do I have any other questions from the board members?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Rossetti?
Yeah, the area that you're putting the addition on, that was previously a patio?
Right,
And it had paving down there?
right.
Okay, and unless you're looking down from above, you wouldn't be able to see this from the street, correct?
Yeah, nowhere.
Okay, okay, and it's gonna tie into the original roof line?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Raymond?
Yeah, thank you. I noticed that in July, it was Sheila Davis that was the owner of the property. Have you taken
My
over that?
mother-in-law,
Have you taken over that property?
I bought it, yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. I just wanted that clarification, thank you.
So it doesn't look like there's any reduction in like permeable surfaces because you're eliminating the patio.
Right, and that patio actually has a roof over it in that section,
Okay,
so it's
so the
almost,
water runoff isn't gonna change the
Right.
neighbors? Okay.
yeah. And if the water runoff is there, and I've been out to this site, it would run towards the back, where it's just a vacant land back there.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Mrs. Riley?
just to point out, we did receive a letter from one of the abutters, Mr. Vecchione,
I have that right here.
who was in support of the project. I agree, I think what what's done so far in the addition looks great. It's a good addition in the neighborhood, in my opinion.
I'm gonna read that quickly, the highlights into the record. It's Joe Vecchione, former town meeting member from precinct 2. And he goes on to say that he was contacted by abutters, they're in favor of this project. And the individual's a good neighbor and such. And if anyone would like to take a look at that, I'll pass that around. And we'll enter that into the record. Anything else from the board? Do I have any comments from the audience?
Motion to close.
None, it's a motion to close. Mr. Cannon?
Sure. On the petition of John Cacciatore, owner of property at 25 Wemessett, lot number 3839, plan number 2033, seeking a special permit for a 12 by 20 foot, one-story addition.
Stop. I'll do the variances separate.
On the grounds that it's no more detrimental to the neighborhood.
Second.
And that's been seconded in the usual remain a single-family home?
Yes.
Okay.
Continue on the variances for pre-existing 50.
No, let's get, we'll do the vote on that.
Take a vote, that's
Special
correct.
permit.
Mr. Rossetti?
Yes.
Ms. Romano?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Ms. Herman Durant?
Yes.
Mr. Travers?
Yes.
Okay, on the variances?
Yeah,
For a pre-existing 15.4 foot front yard setback where 20 feet is required, a pre-existing 9.5 foot yard setback where 15 is required, and a 33.6% proposed lot coverage where 25% is allowed. Again, being no more detrimental to the neighborhood.
and do I have a second?
Second?
Stephanie?
Mr. Rossetti?
Yes.
Ms. Romano?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Ms. Herman Durant?
Yes.
Mr. Travers?
Yes. You're all set?
Thank you.
very much.
Next we have on the petition. No, first before I do that, how about, Stephanie and Peter, you can sit out this one, okay? Just so people know why we're sitting out. We have 7 people here, you counting alternates, and we can only have 5 people voting on issues. So we just take turns sitting out and sitting back, and we keep everybody involved. On the petition of Michael Norcom, owns a property at 13 Lodge Avenue, lot number 7836, plan number 1036B, seeking a special permit for an 18.5 by 29.5 master bedroom, currently in variances for a 7.2 side yard setback with 20 is required, and is currently at 7.1, and a pre-existing 24.4 front yard setback with 30 is required. And the petitioner, I see, is here.
Yes, I'm like, and
Give us an idea of what you're looking to do.
so my wife and I would like to just put an addition off the back of the house, straight back. We're not gonna go outside the footprint of the house on the width. Just gonna go straight back, and it's gonna be a family room downstairs and a master bedroom upstairs.
Okay, and, what's the house exist of right now?
It has a porch off the back now, like a 3-season porch,
Okay,
which we take down and extend out and up,
the
essentially.
rooms are small compared to.
Yeah, you know, the
It
house
looks
was
like
built
it's,
1952, and
yeah,
it's
it's,
time to upgrade, you know?
catch up
It's
to
a
the
beautiful neighborhood, and
Yeah,
we'd like to make this our forever home, so.
Okay. Do I have any questions from the board?
It looks like you're putting a deck off the back also in addition,
Yeah, we'd like to,
in
yes.
conjunction with the addition?
Yes.
Do we need to do a separate variance for that, Mr. Chairman? Well, like, can we include that in, so he doesn't have to come back? It looks like it's gonna run parallel to the addition.
It is.
It's not getting any closer.
It's
to the
not gonna
property
get
line
any,
than the addition.
yeah, nothing will go closer to the property lines.
Yeah, I don't think there's any variance on that because it's not going closer to the lines.
Yeah, I think the
He
first.
just needs a
I
permit
think
from
it's
the building
covered, Frank.
inspector.
Okay.
It's an open deck, it's not a problem.
Yeah,
Right,
so just wherever you would get here tonight, you still have to go to the building inspector for the deck.
Okay,
So that's separate.
yep.
okay. Any questions from the audience? Seeing none, what's the wish of the board?
Motion to close the hearing.
Second?
And that's been closed. And do we have a volunteer, Frank? To read it in.
All right. My first time doing it, so
It's okay.
bear with me. On the petition of Michael Norcom, owner of the property at 13 Lodge Ave, lot number 7836, plan number 1036B, seeking a special permit for an 18.5 by 29.5 master bedroom addition.
All right, stop. We do them separately. We handle the special permit first. And conditions being that the home is.
Condition being, it is that one, right?
Pardon?
Read the top one.
Yes.
There's a finding of the board that the proposed addition would not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing nonconformity,
Right, and to remain a single family
and to
home.
remain a single-family home.
And do I have a second on that?
Seconded.
And Stephanie?
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Federico?
Yes.
Ms. Remedy Durant? Yes. Mr. Travers?
Yes. Now we can move to the variances.
All right, on the petition of Michael Norcom, owner of 13 Lodge Ave, seeking a variance for a 7.2 yard setback, side yard setback where 20 is required, and is currently at 7.1, and a pre-existing 24.4 front yard setback where 30 foot is required. And the variance would be granted due to the shape, soil, and topography which affect this land and the position of the house on the lot,
And with the condition again. of
and with the
single
condition of remaining a single family home.
family. And do I have a second on that?
Seconded.
All right,
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Federico?
Yes.
Ms. Remedy Durant? Yes. Mr. Travers?
yes. All right. It was Lodge. So now we're on the Sunnyside Park.
You're all set?
All good? Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Everybody have a great night.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Good seeing you, man. Have a great night. Thank you.
And I'll set out this one along with Stacy. And so Peter, you want to run the hearing?
Sure. Okay, number 4 on the petition of John and Mary Calderon, owners of property 31 Sunnyside Park, lot 0410, plan 20140, seeking a special permit to add a second-story dormer to the rear of the existing house, and also a variance for a pre-existing 16.5 front yard setback where 20 is required, and a pre-existing 6.7 foot side yard setback where 15 is required.
Yes.
Petitioner? Okay,
My name is Irony. I'm here for the permit for that. So I'm gonna make the dorm 29.5 by 10 by 4.
right. Okay, so you're adding the dormer to the rear of the house. This is similar to what was done to the house next door,
Yes.
same idea? And Is it going the full length of the house, or is it,
Now I'm gonna leave like both side, like 18-inch, the gable.
okay, and what's gonna go in the dormer?
The dorm, flat roof, a rubber roof,
I'm sorry, what?
a rubber roof.
No, what's going inside?
The room.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry about that. Inside I'm gonna make like one
What
room,
rooms are in the house
a
currently?
studio room, and one bathroom and half a bathroom.
And what's it gonna be after you do the improvements?
How many bedrooms total?
Just the one.
But when you're finished, how many bedrooms are gonna be in the house?
And the house like a 3.
3.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's 2 now, and you're adding a
Yes.
third one?
Yes.
Okay. And just, you're adding a half bath or a full bath?
Half bed.
Half bath, okay. Okay, all right. All right, other board members, questions, comments?
I have no questions.
Only question is about the height. We don't have a drawing that shows the height. Is it gonna increase the height at all?
The height is about 8.7, I think.
So the height of the house.
Oh, the whole thing.
Line.
I don't have the information with me, so
Are you gonna increase the height of the house?
Yes,
Above the
yes.
existing line?
yes. Like
gonna make it
16
bigger.
feet longer.
The overall height of the house
Is a
is gonna be
8.7.
bigger?
No, it's the same thing.
So you're just taking the height and bringing the dormer up?
Yes.
Okay, but it's not gonna be higher?
No.
You're not making the house.
Because I'm gonna do like a flat roof,
Okay.
you know?
Is the house under 35 feet high?
Yes.
Okay,
Any questions from the audience?
noting none,
Sorry. I lost
okay,
control of the word.
okay. Anyone wish to close the hearing?
Motion to close the hearing.
Okay,
Second.
second, made and seconded. Okay, anyone want to offer the motion?
Want me to read it in?
Stephanie?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. On the petition of John and Mary Calderon, owners of the property at 31 Sunnyside Park, lot number 0410, plan number 20140, seeking a special permit to add a second-story dormer on the rear of the existing house. Move to grant the special permit. It is finding of the board that the proposed addition would not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing nonconformity.
Okay, do we have a second to
Second.
that motion?
I'll second it.
Mr. Cannon? Okay, we have a motion made and seconded. Stephanie?
Ms. Romano?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Federico?
Yes.
Mr. Rossetti?
Yes. Okay, on the variance.
As to the variance for a pre-existing 16.5-foot front yard setback where 20 feet is required, and a pre-existing 6.7-foot side yard setback where 15 feet is required, move to grant the variance, finding of the board that it's due to the shape, soil, topography, which affect the land and the position of the house on the land.
Okay, we have the variance made. Do we have a second on the variance?
Seconded.
Mr. Cannon? Stephanie?
Ms. Romano?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Riley? Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Federico?
Yes.
Mr. Rossetti?
Yes. Okay.
All set? Thanks so much.
Congratulations.
Okay, back to you.
Mr. Maggie, do you have any issue we give Mr. Schuman a few more minutes?
Oh, he's here.
Oh, is he here? Oh, I didn't see you over there, Justin.
Hiding behind the podium.
You gotta cheer up here if you wanna move up to. We're joined by counsel for the town, Jesse Schuman. On the petition of TB Holdings, LK Holding LLC, 40 Collins Ave LLC, and MTB Development LLC, owners of property at 15, 22, 26, 30, 40, and 44 Collins Ave. Lots number 13, 15, 59, plan number 2030, seeking a special variance for a 26 by 8 side yard setback where 15 feet setback used to be required, and it's currently 100 feet is required, and a 73.11 building height as was previously authorized and currently requires variance of the zoning bylaws. And on this one, Stacy and Frank will be sitting out. For the petitioner,
Thank you, good evening. Sean McCormick at Davis Mall Augustine with a business address of 1 Boston Place, Boston. On behalf of the applicant, TB Holdings. So this is a variance to authorize, formally authorize a height and setback exceedance. There were previously special permits that issued that authorized the same, essentially the same height for a slightly different building. The original permits were for hotel buildings. The same height, same scale, they complied with the setbacks. After the pandemic, the property owner decided to move away from the hotel. Hadn't been built yet. Other aspects of the site had been developed. And the movement was towards a assisted living facility that would sit in the same building site, be roughly the same size and scale. And what happened is, in the intervening year, the zoning changed. So what was previously, a 15-foot side yard setback is now a 100-foot setback. And as a result, and sort of because the property has all these lines, if you draw out the 100-foot setback, which we've done on the colored plan that's in front of everyone, you get this sort of impossibly small building envelope for the undeveloped parcel. So what we're asking for is essentially just a different sort of legal mechanism to approve a building at a height and at a setback that has already been approved. And I'm happy to talk about anything else if there are specific questions, or if I'm not explaining it, I'm happy to give it another shot.
Yeah, but Mr. Chairman, just for clarity, you mentioned, I think you said there was a movement towards an assisted living facility. So what are you planning to use the new building for?
Assisted living facility. It was previously approved for 2 hotels.
Yeah.
The idea is to put 1 assisted living facility there instead of the 2 hotels.
And how many units?
220.
220.
220 units in one building?
Yes.
And they're 1 bedroom apiece, I assume?
Studios, 1s and 2s.
Anything else, Chris?
Not on that.
So I'd note that the assisted living use is a use that's allowed by right, and and I believe the density is consistent with the underlying zoning, and so the only relief that is necessary would be from the height and from the setbacks. We would also need to go back and get an amendment to the site plan approval, amendment to a master plan approval, but I'm putting that in a slightly different category as the height and setbacks.
Mr. Chairman, could we
Hold
hear
on. Stacy had a question.
Yeah, I have several questions. I'll start with my first one. How many years ago was your first proposal with the hotels approved?
And why did those happen?
There was a 2016 special permit, and then there was a modification in 2019. And the reason it didn't happen is basically COVID.
Okay, so why not hotels now? Why are we not revisiting the hotels?
I'm not sure that the hotel market is what it used to be, and there was a sense that the assisted living use would be sort of a more benign use for the town, generally a less of a draw on public services, public utilities, fewer cars, fewer drivers. So you get a sort of nice residential use without a lot of the friction that comes with larger housing developments.
Can I continue or?
Yeah,
Okay,
more
I have one question. So presumably it was approved in 2000. First of all, I'm all for assisted living facilities. That's not the issue. I just have some questions regarding, there obviously was a reason. There's now currently a 100-foot setback as opposed to 15. I was at the site today, and there's not a lot of green space. And presumably if this goes in that space, there's presumably elder people will have grandchildren visiting them, and there's no green space whatsoever up there currently. I mean, there's patches, don't get me wrong, there's patches of green space, but there's no usable green space there. So putting here even would impede that even more.
So the assisted living design is it's designed around a courtyard.
I get that, but what about outdoor space? Is that outdoor space?
So the outdoor space is subject to the site plan approval and the master plan approval. So those were vetted by the planning board, and the site designs were approved by that board.
Okay, I still think there was a reason there was a 100-foot setback, or that's changed, and that's been years ago, that's changed, so. Yeah, and then the height, how many stories would this be?
Well, the height would be 71 or 72 feet.
That was 70.
73 feet 11 inches.
Okay, and do we have the authority to approve the height, or is that the select thing as stated on the
I
front
believe
page?
our council's gonna comment on that.
Okay.
Sure, Mr. Chair, I'm happy to do that now, unless.
I was just curious.
At some point, you will.
Okay.
Do you know what the
Go ahead,
total,
Stacy, you finished?
Yeah, go ahead, I'm finished
All
right
right,
now.
Ms. Federico?
so you said it's a mix of studio 1 and 2. Do we have a total resident number?
220.
Well, it's 220 total units. David, do you have a?
It would be somewhere around 250 residents,
So
under full occupancy.
250 residents?
Typically, it's about 92% occupied on a regular basis.
So I'm getting the technical input from David Feldman of the Wingate Companies, which would be the operator of the assisted living facility.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Cannon?
this would be, assisted living would be all senior citizens?
Yes.
So that would tax the emergency services.
Well, actually, that not as much as you would think. They generally don't have a significantly greater emergency response to assisted living facilities. I mean, it's probably greater than a single-family neighborhood, but it's actually not as frequent as you would imagine.
I disagree with you. I live in senior housing, and we do tax the emergency services.
Okay.
Yes.
I would agree that it is a tax on having a mother who lived in assisted living. Are these going to be, is this going to have, how's it going to be staffed? Like, is there, what I'm trying to get at, are these individual apartments and people take care of themselves? Or is it an assisted living facility that, will have staff? And certain services?
So there are going to be multiple levels of care. There's going to be a memory care component, the sort of full-blown assisted living, and then maybe think of it as like assisted living light. So it's more akin to independent living.
And parking, is there?
There's a garage, sort of ground level garage parking. But like I said, the assisted living use is allowed by right.
Yeah, I have a question too about, I get that.
Okay.
You know, it's more like the footprint and the parking and the green space and the 100-foot abatement. That's, yeah, I get that. And like I said, I mean, we need more assisted living places, so that's not the issue, trust me.
Anyone else from the board?
Mr. Chairman, can we hear from council?
We always ready. Did you have something else you wanted to?
Yes, yes. I'm really familiar with this project. I was chairman of the planning board when this came in, and before I left the planning board, we approved it. It was under discussion for many, many, many months. Actually, I think it was several years. When it was approved, it was gone through by the Board of Selectmen. They approved the height. Everything was done. It was after the fact, after they started construction, that things changed recently. Okay, that's when the setbacks changed. That's when the height issues changed. Okay, so that was something that was done after the buildings were approved, put in place, or not completely put in place. Some of you may remember there was a discussion concerning the height of the buildings and whether the air conditioning units were going to be part of the height. So there were a lot of issues, but we had numerous discussions, and we sat in this very room for, must have been at least 50 hours discussing this. It was gone over with a fine-tooth comb. Initially, the plan was to have a significant hotel put in. At that point, COVID hit. When COVID hit, the financing market for hotels went down the tube because people weren't traveling. And banks didn't want to finance hotels if no one was going to go to the hotel. So at that point, that's when the people started looking to see what else they could put in. That's when the assisted living part came about. The initial lot, when it was presented to us back, back in town meeting, back in at least 10 years ago, the tax revenue that was generated by this was approximately $30,000 a year from the whole lot. It was split up into multiple lots at one point because of financing issues. The tax revenue from it is significantly higher now. It's like adding a zero to it, so significantly higher income. Basically what happened was once it got approved, it was moving forward, but again, part of the difficulty was that because of the economic conditions at the time, it prevented the financing, and financing became an issue. So basically, they had everything approved. It was just they couldn't get the money to build the stuff. Now they can do that, and we, in the course of time, have changed the requirements. So it just seems like we changed the rules. You know, we're in the fourth quarter of the game, and now instead of a first down being 10 yards, we made it 15 or something else. And that just doesn't seem fair to the petitioner.
Mr. Chairman, the 100-yard setback they are referring to, I think, was just voted on town meeting of last year, is that
That's
correct?
correct.
I think the sentiment behind that setback was to protect residential abutters. I don't believe there's any residential abutters along these setbacks, if I recall correctly.
There's not.
Could I introduce myself? I'm Michael Touchette, I'm the owner of the site. So when we did come to the board originally, the green space was created, we created this big space in the back as open space when we did the original site plan in front of the planning board. And also, we have all one-bedroom units there. So we minimize the amount of people that impact to the school system and everything else. So like Peter said, this was a long thing that came about. And then when we did have 2 hotels, and then when COVID came, and then when it came time to get the hotels again, they weren't gonna be the quality that we needed because of the stuff that's going on in the world right now. You know, so it's so short of quality, and up on the left, boarded up for 3 years. So we've been working with Wingate for the last 3 years to build an assisted living facility here, but the zoning wasn't clear. So we had to go to land court. It took us 2.5 years for the judge to say this was an allowable use at the rate that we wanted to do it. So when we got that, obviously the zoning changed, and like you said, we don't have any impact on the neighbors, because this is the gas line, the high tension line, so we would never even impact aggregate industries if they ever developed it, because we're down lower. So to keep consistent with the site, we're just trying to build the buildings based upon what the site was approved for originally with the Board of Selectmen. So if I build a shorter building, it's sort of gonna look funny, and the building would be more spread out. And right now, we're gonna design this building with all the parking, basically all but 16 spots under the building. There's 2 stories of parking under the building. So we're getting rid of all the cars, and the car thing is with the people, we're gonna have a shuttle service. I'm not gonna own it, Wingate's gonna own it. They're gonna have a shuttle service for people to go shopping. They're gonna have a car thing to take them to the movies. So mostly it's gonna be employees. And all the cars are gonna be in a 2-story parking garage underground. So that's part of the impact of this. Originally, on our original site plan, we had a parking garage and 2 hotels. So now we combined it to 1 building, less impact on the community. We think it's a better fit with the 1-bedroom units. I have a lot of people that have downsized in Saugus that have moved there to the 1 bedrooms, and we have a lot of people starting out in Saugus. So it's working out well. We have less impact. We already met with all the department heads, the police department and the fire department, to bring up your gentleman's point. They agreed that it's a less impact on them than having hotels or something else there. So this is something that's by right, and we're working with a great provider here. We're also gonna provide a tour of a couple of their facilities if any of the board wants to come after this meeting, but we're gonna bring the planning board and the town manager and stuff to show them what kind of operation they run. It's a top-notch operation that they run. I will not be running it. They will be buying this piece of land for me and owning it, but I'll still retain the rest of the land. Plus, I'm developing next door the Maddie site with the Wong family. So that's gonna be connected here, and we're a couple weeks away from getting that building permit, and that's gonna be all 1-bedroom units. So we're trying to build a little community there, and like I said, it's not, all the parking's gonna be hidden. We do have green space, more green space that's required by the planning board, and we also, at the original meetings, took this piece of land in the back and made it a conservation piece of land that could never be built on. So we did provide a lot of open space on this project when we got it approved, just if there's any other questions.
So this currently is not green space now, though?
No, because the site's not finished, so everything you looked at today where my office trailer is and everything, all that land that's left up there will be this piece of property. From this rotary where the fountain is, all this land here is part of this new piece of property with this big green space in the middle that's not built yet. This green space along Collins Ave, this green space, the green space in the back. This piece of land is not developed yet, and that's one of the problems I want to develop it. Like I said, between COVID, then clarification on the zoning, that we had to actually go to litigation to get clarification. 3 years later, we're at this point, otherwise we would have been building the building. These people have been hanging on for 3 years now. So if we don't get it, what happens is we have to lower the building, spread it out, and it's just not gonna be conforming to what I have already built and got approved for. We're trying to stay consistent. We're not gonna be higher. We're gonna be consistent with the buildings that are built there. And when I got that special permit from the Board of Selectmen, they came to the site and they agreed that this site stands alone. We don't have residential abutters, and they gave me the permits that we needed to get this thing built this far. But through the last 3-4 years, between COVID and the hotel business and what's going on, this is the point I'm at now today. So we have a great provider for the town. Wingate Associates is gonna, if this gets approved, they're gonna buy it from me, they're gonna build their building, and it's gonna be a great asset to the community, you know? Sure.
Are they gonna have staff medical people on site?
David here is a representative from that.
David Feldman, Senior Vice President from Wingate Living. To answer some questions, the entire building will be licensed by Executive Office of Elder Affairs. So they have staffing requirements as part of the licensure. They do annual inspections, or surveys, if you will. We do have RNs on staff during the day.
Okay.
So
I'm just trying to draw a parallel, you know, if it's not gonna cause more of a detriment to Saugus Police and Fire, is some of the stuff essentially gonna be handled in-house, potentially reducing, you know, less urgent calls?
Yep.
So, it sounds like there is gonna be
yeah,
staffed RN.
we're fully staffed during daytime hours, usually
That's-
first 2 shifts.
During the day, so that's nine
First
to
2
five.
shifts, yeah. Well, usually 11 to 7.
And I also like to point out,
I'm sorry.
11 a.m. to 7 p.m.?
So from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. and then 3 p.m. to 11.
they've done an intensive study about this building in the area over the last 3 years, and this is, you know, needed in this area. So normally, another facility wouldn't come in once we're in that radius. So they've done their study in the radius of this building, and we spent a lot of money on that, so this thing would, you know, make sure it's gonna work before they build it.
Mr. Chairman, do we have anything from the police or fire on this? I haven't seen anything.
I haven't seen anything, but I know.
Mr. Chairman, when this was first discussed, police and fire were heavily involved in this. And it was part of the original planning with planning board,
When it was, when they were talking about a hotel?
when they were talking about a hotel.
And then we did have, a couple months ago, a department head meeting with everybody up at City Hall. They were in the meeting, and they were very happy with the way I run the property, with my camera system, my security, the fire department, and we're providing a link here through the Matty site that got approved through the planning board. So there would be 2 ways out of this site. If this road ever got blocked down by Dunkin' Donuts, there will be another exit to the Matty site. So they were all involved in that, and I'm not gonna speak for them, but I know they're for this project, and their comments were many, and we'll address their comments when we design this building.
And if I can just add to that, because there is a second approval process here for the amendment to the site plan and the master plan. So those are it's in connection with that process that the department head meeting occurred. We've been soliciting input from town departments like police, like fire. So there is a whole other process that's going to review the use and review the site plan subsequent to this hearing tonight.
Okay, we don't have any of that. Anything from any other departments in front of us. I would be more comfortable making a decision if we had some of that information in front of us. In part because I'm not buying the notion that an assisted living facility is going to be less of a demand on emergency services than a hotel. I'm just...
Sure. I totally understand that. I don't want to, I'm wary of sort of overlapping jurisdictions here. So, what we're here asking for is a dispensation as to the height and the setback. And the zoning board is the board that considers that and grants that. So the master plan approval and the site plan approval is the planning board. So I don't want to I don't want to sort of confuse the issues here. This is really related to the height and the setback, and like we said, this was the height and setback that was originally approved for structures in this location.
It was I get that, but it was approved for the structure of a hotel. And how many units were in the hotel?
There was 140 and 160, 300 rooms. approved in the original plan. 140 unit hotel and 160, with a special height permit of 82 and 86. Those were gonna be the two highest buildings. On the Board of Selectmen granted me a special permit for those two buildings to be taller. Again, height to create more open space. So those permits were approved at that time. So this facility would be smaller, like we said, the courtyard here is wide open. This is gonna be on top of the, if you can visualize looking down from a helicopter, this would be a green area inside the middle that contains the patients so they can, know where they are. This area in the middle is green space, looking down from a helicopter. It's 2 stories of parking, then around it is this rectangle that this is open space.
Okay, I can confirm that the initial plan did include 2 hotels, one being approximately 150 or 160 rooms, and the other was something smaller than that, but not much. Also, if you read the police logs in the daily paper, one of the frequent sites that's cited on a regular basis is about a mile from here. It has a red roof, and frequently the police and fire are there. And it's usually not for medical situations. Again, there are numerous places. In fact, this board approved one approximately a year ago over on Hamilton Street, I believe, that we had an issue with. And the concern there was also as far as the need for medical issues. And we determined that that was not a pressing issue at the time because they had the staff to handle it.
And I think, I recall that we had a letter from the fire department on that one as well. I think we had police and fire.
We may
in favor
have,
of that.
I think that was after the fact. That one went on for a number of meetings also. Okay, but
Yep.
this one, the issue before us is the height and the setback. It's a different issue, I believe.
I agree with Mr. Rose. I think that we had to deal with the height, the setbacks, and leave the planning board and other people to what they get involved with. And we're staying out of that. I don't think that should really be our involvement.
Okay, agreed.
Okay, speak.
1 second. Anything else from the board? From the audience, Mr. Cogliano?
I think Stacy had a question for
Oh,
us.
thank you. Should we
No,
hear
go
from our
ahead, go ahead.
attorney? Should we hear from our attorney?
No, go ahead.
That was my question. Should we hear?
Yeah,
from
he'll
the
speak when
attorney?
he's ready.
Does the attorney have-
I have one quick question too. So
Okay.
the overall height of the building, you're looking for a relief for, what was it, 73 feet?
7311.
Okay. And just to make sure I'm not getting mixed up, these are your elevation plans?
Well, those are really,
Yeah, those are the elevation plans.
So
Okay.
I'm looking at 165 feet on the elevation plan.
yeah, so that doesn't start at 0. There should be the 3rd sheet.
Yeah, that doesn't start at 0.
Yeah, there,
That's based on elevation of,
Basement.
yeah.
That's the basic.
so,
If you go to this cross section here,
I say 5311.
it gives you a cross section of the courtyard I was talking about inside, and then it tells you from the grade paid average 73 feet 11, which is consistent with the buildings that I have there right now.
On one side of the building though, because of the slope of the land, it will be the 165, correct?
No,
Because you mean
on the front of the average, yeah, on the front of the building, it will be 12 feet taller.
okay.
And then the garage goes down, and then this is the average grade plane here is halfway through, excuse me, I'm sorry, through the first floor of the garage, see it? So that would be certified by the engineer and the building height, Bashan Associates, like I've certified the other buildings that are there now. So that would be certified by a civil engineer.
Thank you.
Mr. Cogliano?
Anthony Cogliano, Mr. Chairman, Anthony Cogliano, 310 Lincoln Ave, also a member of the Board of Selectmen, but speaking as a resident, knowing what goes on and what inhabits our hotels in Saugus today, I think a hotel is the last thing we want or need in this town because they're not hotels. My office is on the 5th floor of one of the tallest buildings in town, and I get a good view of the Holiday Inn, the Red Roof Inn, and I can tell you, having been involved in assisted living for the last 5 years between my aunt and my mother, you'll never see activity with ambulances and fire at assisted living like we do at the hotels that we have in Saugus. So I think we should be doing backflips over the fact that it's going to be assisted living and not a hotel. Thank you.
Do we have anything else from the board? Anyone else in the audience like to comment?
Reserve the right after Jesse speaks.
Sure. Jesse, do you have any comments?
Sure, Mr. Chair. So the zoning requirements in this district have changed a number of times over the years since the project was originally approved by Peter's board back in 2015. It's been amended at least 3 times that I'm aware of, in 2020 and 2022, and again last spring in 2024. Since 2020, the zoning has required a special permit from the Board of Selectmen for any height variances in excess of the by right height of 60 feet. And that's changed over the amendments that have happened since then. The current requirements as of the 2024 town meeting require a maximum by right height of 3 stories, 40 feet. Previously that was 4 stories, 55 feet, and I believe when your board looked at it, Peter, it was 60 feet? Maybe?
60 feet, but a special permit was granted.
Granted to go higher?
To 90.
Yes, to 90 feet. That's right. In 2022, it was amended again to reduce the height requirements, and it was amended again, as I mentioned, in 2024. The zoning relief that the applicant has requested in this situation is a little bit unique in that the zoning changes that were enacted in 2024 prescribe a maximum height that the Board of Selectmen may authorize by special permit. And that height is now, per Article 31 of last year's town meeting, any structure over 4 feet, 50 feet in height, 4 stories, 50 feet in height, 3 stories, 40 feet in height, requires that special permit from the Board of Selectmen. So the maximum that the Board of Selectmen by special permit can authorize is 60 feet. That requirement applies to any structure in excess of the by right height. So what the applicant is asking for here tonight is not the only relief that they will need. They will also need to get that special permit from the Board of Selectmen. Now, that's not under this board's purview. That's for the Board of Selectmen, and Mr. Compiano will be presiding over that, along with the other selectmen when that goes to that board. In addition to that permit, Mr. Chair, they, as Mr. McCormick mentioned, they will have to amend their site plan approval, their master plan approval. But at this point, all of the existing zoning requirements that were in effect when Mr. Rossetti's board reviewed it are essentially of no meaning for the board's current review. Any special permits that the owner had that allowed a higher height than what they're currently proposing, those have lapsed due to non-use. The existing zoning has been changed, and under the State Zoning Act, because they haven't begun construction within 1 year of obtaining the master plan and site plan approvals, those protections are also lapsed. So really, it's a very complicated situation where they're proposing to do a new building. There is a history of the planning board and the Board of Selectmen authorizing a taller height, and I won't speak on the board's standards in your purview under the variance standards. You're all very, very well aware of that, I'm sure. Did that answer your question, Mr. Chair?
I think so, somewhat.
The shorter answer, to cut it
If we
shorter,
approve this,
if you approve this, Mr. Chair,
It's still gotta go to
they still have to go to the selectmen for a special permit. The trouble for the applicant here is the special permit under the current zoning says that the most special permit relief that they can grant is 60 feet. So in theory, this board could grant the relief that they're asking for I'm not sure that the Board of Selectmen can. But that's not, as I said, that's not for your purview.
Right, but part of the problem with all of this was the reason that they were not able to go ahead and build was because it was tied up in court. So it was something that was beyond the petitioner's control. And they came in good faith, they negotiated, we went through the process. They were all set to go ahead. They got hit with COVID, which slowed them down. And then by waiting for the land court to make a decision, that took more than 2 years. So you're penalizing people for things that were beyond their control.
Mr. Federico?
I have a question for the council for you. Where zoning has changed multiple times, is there any precedent of a project that is underway or in the process of being underway that we can look at, that the board may have granted leniency to? Or is there any past history that could guide us? To your knowledge.
So I'll try to answer the question. Essentially, the board is compelled to review each project as its own project. There's no such thing as past precedent. If the board allowed a variance next door, it doesn't matter. If you allowed a variance for this site, it doesn't matter. Each proposal has to be weighed on its own merits. What the State Zoning Act says is that zoning changes that apply in situations where there's an existing building permit or special permit, it doesn't specifically reference site plan approval or master plan approval because that's unique to Saugus. But my recommendation would be that it applies the same. But what the state law says is zoning changes apply to building permits and special permits where operations under those permits or construction over those permits hasn't started within 12 months. So even if a project has a building permit, if they haven't started building, the zoning changes apply to it within those 12 months. So it's not I don't mean to disagree with Mr. Rossetti, it's not an issue of fairness, that's just how state law operates. And just one point of correction, the land court litigation that you mentioned, that happened, that was started after COVID and after the zoning had already been changed. Right. And I believe after the height special permits had lapsed as well.
Well, again, the site was divided. Initially, this was, I believe, 2 lots. It could have been 3. But because of financing requirements, it had to be subdivided into multiple lots. When that happened, what they were doing was they were starting construction on different phases. You may remember initially the furthest back apartment building was the first one built. Okay, when that was completed, the Board of Selectmen and the Planning Board both went out, and on a Saturday morning we were standing on the roof of that thing, looking out and seeing where the other buildings were going to go. But it took time because you had to get each one of those projects and each section of the project permitted. Okay, and you couldn't do them all at once because you couldn't have 6 buildings going up on the same site all at the same time. That would be just chaos. Okay, and you wouldn't have control. So it was designed to happen over a period of years, but because of the COVID situation, which slowed down the original progress, some of you may remember across the street was Whaley's, okay? And they had a similar problem when they built Whaley's. It got hung up in town issues, and because of that, it slowed their construction down, which forced them to get alternate financing, which eventually was their downfall. Okay, they had the Bank of China financing them, and the interest rate became intolerable, and that's why Whaley's wound up closing, because they just couldn't afford the mortgage payments. Okay, and again, it was an issue of things beyond their control. They were trying to get permits, they were attending the meetings, they were coming in with the requirements that were necessary, but because the town was slow in reacting to it, it caused the problem. That's the similar situation here. We have kind of an ideal situation. There's virtually no abutters to this. There's no residents that are being inconvenienced at all because of this. They went through the
Yeah,
process.
if I can go further, I hate to use the term like kicking it down the road to the selectmen, that type of thing. But I really feel that's what that we can't make that decision here tonight and get everything. Maybe we have to approve this and get moving forward and let the powers in town take it from there, is the way that I'm feeling.
That would
You
make
know,
sense.
we're not an end-all right here, we're just a facilitator to get to the next step. And I think that we should push them to the next step, and then let the selectmen take it from there. Let the planning board take it from there. And again, I like taking responsibility for what we do, but in this case, it's a little bit different. And I think that we should move this along down the road and let the petitioner get to the next step of their journey. And see where that is, rather than just stalemate this and get involved with things that really we don't need to get involved with. We're here, again, for a setback and a height.
I would like to make a comment on that he made, permit stuff that's gonna happen, the Maddie site, we have a special permit there for height. I filed for that building permit in October, and I still don't have it yet. So when you talk about time, there's nothing to do with me. You know, the process here is very slow. So October 11th, I filed a full set of plans for that site to get developed. That looks terrible, right? We got a height permit, we got the buildings approved, we got the access approved, everything's done. Since October 11th, I still haven't got a response to get those 2 building permits for those 2 buildings. I've been waiting every day to close my bank loan for $40 million to build those buildings. The site looks terrible. So the process here is slower than normal. Otherwise, I'm speedy. I built that last building in 13 months. Once we get started here, these buildings go up, this site's gonna be done, the town's gonna collect revenue, the site's gonna be finished, and it's gonna be beautiful. And it's also gonna help my tenants. All the greenery's gonna be done, everything's gonna be done. So, you know, like I said, it's the process here that's a little slow. So if I had the permits in October for the Maddie site, there'd be 2 buildings going right up now that exceed the height requirement in that area, because all this area, we got that special permit. So now if I don't get it, we're gonna have a shrink building with all these tall buildings around it. It's not gonna be uniform, it's not gonna look nice to the site. We can stretch that building out. I can stretch this building all the way out here to this cul-de-sac. You know, the key number here is 220 rooms for them to make this thing work. Wingate's a top-notch operation. We can take a floor or 2 off this building, I can stretch it 60 feet this way, and we build a little flat building. But that's not gonna be what's there now, and that's not gonna be consistent with what's going on next door at the Maddie site. So the Maddie site's all approved, 2 buildings, 1 building with 20 apartments, a restaurant, the other building has 48 or 58 apartments going up on top of the hill right next to this, all 1-bedroom units. There's gonna be a rooftop bar up there and everything. It's consistent to what I built in the area. Like I said, I partnered with the Wongs on this site, so it's all gonna be consistent. If we drive up this hill and see a 3-story building, you know, sort of like the Hilltop, they built those shoddy wooden buildings. You know, I build out of steel concrete. When I build these buildings, we build them tall. The fire department will tell you they're built to last. We don't have problems. We don't have fires. You know, I build a good quality building. I'm the owner, I'm the developer, I'm everything. I'm there every day at 5 in the morning. So for me to build a shorter building, we're gonna go to the building code. Okay, we're gonna build it out of wood. We're gonna put clapboards on it. It's gonna be a different building in the middle of a site that's not consistent with the rest of it. It's gonna be built like the Maddie site next door and what I have here now. So when this first was approved, they said, hey, we'll give it a shot, the town said. It's at that end of town, it's a dead piece of land, the golf course can't survive anymore off quarters. So I bought it, and now that's what it is. So now for me not to get this, right, it's just gonna be, we're still gonna build something there. I can go back to 2 hotels. Like Peter said, you can talk to the fire chief, you can talk to the police chief. The people I've talked to in town, they don't want 2 hotels there. Could I get the Comfort Inn tomorrow, the Days Inn? Probably. At what rate? $109 a night? It's not gonna be good. This is a high-class operation they run. This is not, we just didn't pick anybody out of the yellow pages. We've been working on this for 3 years. Wingate, look them up. They're high-end. This is gonna be a high-end facility. The asset for this town, the study was done. They spent $300,000 on a study to make sure this building worked in this community. When I first came here for the one bedrooms, we had, was it Bob that was community development? And they did a study with Northeast University. They said, here's what the town needs. And that's how I developed this site. They spent a lot of money on that study. Time came, COVID came, finances came, hotels changed. It's a different world. So we just adapted to the world we're in today. That's all. And I mean, to be consistent what's there now, I'm asking this board, we don't have neighbors. We'll never have neighbors back here. Never. There's a high tension line, there's a gas even, and down 110 feet is aggregate. We're never gonna have neighbors. And I found out the other day, they're not gonna renew their excavation permit anymore in the town. So they're done. So we're not gonna have neighbors abutting this property, never. And that was one of the reasons this got approved the first time. So I appreciate the board, anything you could do. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, could I just want to correct the record
Yes.
on one point, because I want to, I don't want the record to be uncorrected and there to be a suggestion that Building Commissioner LaVecchia is sitting on building permit applications for the adjacent site.
Okay.
There's an issue with that relating to the fact that the owner did not provide the regulatory agreement and deed restriction for the affordable housing units. And unless and until that is finalized, the building commissioner is not empowered to issue building permits. That is underway as we speak. We're working between council, but that's the reason why those building permits. It's not because he's just sitting around not issuing.
I sort of disagree. They were supposed to have a peer review done within 20 days of my permit application, and we still not have received that yet. So there's two sides to that story. By right, state right, I have the right to build those buildings now because the 30 days have expired, but we won't get into that tonight. But we've been waiting for that and for that thing, so.
Mr. Chairman, question, Mr. Sherman, you talked about the changes in the zoning in recent years. The ask here is for 73 plus feet. Remind me, please, what's the current limit on height?
The by right limit is 3 stories, 40 feet. And that's section 21.10.E.1. Subsection 2 allows for a special permit by the Board of Selectmen for height in excess of that, has required that since 2020. And subpoint E3 requires the setback that Mr. McCormick mentioned, the 100 feet setback for any structure over 55 feet in height. So my understanding is that the applicant is requesting variances from section E.2, E.1, excuse me, E.1 and E.3.
And is there a height limit as to what the Board of Selectmen can limit? How high can the Board of Selectmen permit?
60 feet.
So let's say that this gets to the Board of Selectmen and they're limited to 60 feet. How do they approve 73 feet?
We can vary that.
Yeah,
It's within our jurisdiction. We can issue a variance to what they put on it. So we could give this variance that they're requesting. The selectmen would then have the authority, or they could go to the 60 feet, and we could vary them in excess of that.
Do that tonight?
I don't believe we can do it tonight. We can do the 60 feet tonight. But then if they grant the 60 feet, then we can vary that to what they're requesting.
I appreciate the background about this plane came back, 6, 7 years ago and COVID hit, and it's a real world thing. I get that. I appreciate that it's going to be, that the plan here is to be assisted living. Is it better than a hotel? Sure, okay, I can go along with that. It's great that there's going to be medical staff on site, at least for 2/3 of the day. All that being said, there has been a clear, and we hear it every month, for one reason or another, about the traffic in town, the congestion in town, and not just traffic, but physical congestion, and that site is maybe among the most congested plots in town. It's extremely tight. It seems to me that since this was originally permitted, there has been a change in appetite for the town. There's been a number of very large developments in town unrelated to this site. And I'm really struggling with saying we're gonna provide us a variance for 33 plus feet. I mean, that's nearly double. For a site that's already on a good-sized hill. I know, I can see it from my kitchen, and I live over a mile away. I hear what the applicant is talking about in terms of uniformity, and for myself, I think everybody else, I don't think there's any appetite for anybody to punish anybody here because COVID hit, or because of anything else. Maybe the town is slow. I don't want to punish anybody for anything. I want you to have a good business, build a good building, and we all live happily ever after. But a 33-foot variance?
It's not a 33-foot variance, it's a 13-foot variance.
It's 40 feet by
The
right.
selectmen go to 60, then we go to 73.
Well, okay, but you just finished telling us that's not what's in front of us today. It's 40 feet by right.
No, it's, by special permit, the selectmen can go to 60.
But wait, that's the selectmen's business.
But they can go to 60 and then we can vary the 60 up to the 73. That's what our job is, to do variances.
I get what you're saying. Understand.
I mean, to his point though.
But sorry, Frank, but this is whatever was permitted before, it's been described to us that it has expired. By right, today, the applicant could build to 40 feet, not 60.
No, they can go to the selectmen and request a special permit up to 60 feet.
Sure, but that's not today. Today.
That is today.
No, he's not in front of the selectmen yet.
Well, okay.
Today is 40 feet.
To the developer's point, Chris, though, he could stretch it out. He's still gonna get his 220 units. Now, it's more, it's gonna be.
It's gonna be a much more congested area.
Right.
It could
She'll have
be
more property.
more detrimental to the site because now it's not conforming. Like, it essentially sounds like 220 is going there, one way or another.
It's not consistent to what's built now, that's all I'm asking for.
And-
If I had other buildings, I wouldn't be asking for a pop-up. I'm asking to stay consistent for what's there now because of the time lapse.
I get
Yeah,
that, and
I know.
I've heard you say that a
Yeah.
few times, and I understand it. You're saying that you want it consistent. What I'm saying is, people in town don't like what's there already. They really, really don't like it. So to be consistent with something that the town doesn't want today, I'm not seeing the value in that.
Every meeting we had for 2.5 years, we never had one person in opposition. All
That
we
was a
had-
long time ago. The appetite in Saugus has changed in the last 6, 7 years. We hear it every month. We've got another site going on, a similar piece of land, very, very tight. We get beat over the head with this every month.
I understand.
But the congestion is gonna be different. This is assisted living. Assisted living doesn't contribute to congestion. The people who live there, I mean, look at Brooksby, okay? There's not a horrendous traffic in front of Brooksby all the time. Look at whatever it's called this week, the Saugus Nursing Home. there's not a tremendous amount of traffic there because the people who are there don't generate that traffic, okay? They just had a seminar in town that was extremely well attended at the senior center that dealt with the issue of downsizing. And a lot of people in town have these big old 10-room houses that they want to do something with to sell, but they have no place to go because there's no facilities available. But those kind of people aren't the ones who are creating the congestion.
I don't have to be sold on it. I appreciate the point, and it's more than valid. Assisted living, great, perfect use. I guess I have a related question to that is, how exactly do we define assisted living? And what assurances would we have that in 6 months it doesn't turn into?
There was a judge's order issued when we went to court that explains specifically what we can build there, how many rooms, how many memory care, how many assisted living rooms. There's no independent living going there. So like to Peter's point, people that drive, basically independent living is people that are independent and they can drive. We're gonna have assisted living and memory care. Only 2 structures in this building. That was by the land court. We have a piece of paper that was submitted to the planning board. We have that was settled between the town and everybody. So it's gonna be specific to what the court order was.
Okay, so how do we define assisted living?
Assisted living is licensed by EOEA, independent living is not, but entire building is gonna be licensed under EOEA.
The entire building, normally we would have 2 floors, 2 floors, 2 floors, right? Assisted living, independent living, and memory care. We're just gonna have 2 in this building because that's the way the judge ruled. Because when he ruled, he said independent living falls under the residential component in the zoning, so we couldn't build kitchenettes. So we lost that part of it. And at that time, I thought I lost my customer. But they looked at it again, we did another study, and they said it will still work at memory care and assisted living. So the building will be divided that way instead of a normal 3 ways. So we won't have any pay. So I think we're gonna provide to the planning board, we've already applied, like how many cars, I think there's 35 staff cars a day. The car minimum here is minimal. They're gonna provide shuttle buses. We're not gonna impact traffic. The hotels are way more than that, or anything else that went here. The only thing I can't build here anymore is apartments, but besides that, in the zoning, there's other things I can build here. But office buildings aren't gonna work anymore. So this is the next best use for this piece of land. In our opinion, hopefully in yours. But that's what it comes down to. And the impact here, the cars, it's just the staff coming in and out once a day. It's not picking up, dropping off, and all that stuff like a hotel or anything. So the impact here, we feel, is gonna be less. And we're gonna do a great job designing this building.
Anyone else on the board? Anyone in the audience with any more comments?
If I could just make one more comment, Tom.
Mr. Cogliano?
I've been following the other development that's going on in Saugus too, that's before your board. And our town hired a peer review consultant to come in on the Palumbo project, who suggested that that project should be 1 building, which would be, to get that height would be 13 stories. So, and we're hiring people at our expense, experts, to make recommendations. They came back with a 13-story building. So, and I don't think anybody wants that. And just by sitting on the board for the past 6 years, I've had multiple conversations with the fire chief, who prefers steel and concrete to wood. It's a much better avenue. The use is much better. It's a win for the town, doing it this way. Thanks.
I have talked myself with fire prevention, with Essex Landing being versus the other projects in town, and it's where they're all steel and concrete. It's like, it's such a better development, safer, everything else.
Motion to close.
Second?
Second. All right, the hearing's been closed. Katie, you want to take a shot at reading something?
Okay, on the petition of TV Holdings, LK Holdings LLC, 40 Collins Ave LLC, and MTB Development LLC, owners of property at 15, 22, 26, 30, 40, and 44 Collins Avenue, Lot 13, 15, 59, Plan 2030, seeking a variance for a 26.8 side yard setback, where 15 setback used to be required and currently 100 is required, and 73 feet 11 inches building height, what was previously authorized and currently requires a variance of the zoning bylaws. Grounds would be that it is no more detrimental and that the specific topography of the site would necessitate the variance.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add some conditions to that. That the site is staffed 16 or more hours per day with medical.
I don't know if that's really with, how is that with what they're asking for on setback and heights? I don't think that's something that we get involved with. I think that falls into other people's hands. It's not us.
So that we're allowing them to build a 73-foot tall box. And they can.
No.
Not in front of us what they're doing with it.
No.
But hold on, but we ask every resident, well, on your dormer, what kind of room you're gonna put in there? You're gonna put a bathroom or bedroom? Why is that our business, but this isn't our business?
They have a court order. They have a court order saying what they can do with it.
Attorney Chairman, would you like to
Okay, I don't have that.
comment on the conditions?
Typically, I would say in a variance, you do have the authority to impose conditions. It's recommended that they be related to the relief that you're actually issuing here tonight. So where you're not, where the Board of Appeals purview is not the operation of the assisted living facility, what I would suggest you consider doing is making that a recommendation in a correspondence to the planning board, that when they review the master plan and site plan, that they include that as a condition of their approval of the project, so that you can incorporate it sort of secondarily in that way. And then you could also include conditions requiring that any relief you grant is contingent on all other permits being obtained, including the selectmen, the planning board, master plan, and planning board site plan approval. And that would indirectly, I think, accomplish what Mr. Riley is thinking of. Yeah.
But that would result in us essentially, or me, or someone from the board, recommending or requesting another board to put on such a condition.
That's within their jurisdiction.
Well, I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah.
The correspondence, I would say, your recommendation could be couched in language that leaves it up to the planning board's discretion whether to approve and say we're not recommending approval, we're not recommending disapproval, it's your purview. But if you do approve it, then we want this condition imposed.
So it's a request.
It would be a request, yeah. But that ultimately is within the planning board's purview for them to decide. And I know there's a member of the planning board in the audience tonight, and I'm sure he's heard every word of what you're saying.
Yeah. So, I mean, we put medical personnel restrictions on the Hamilton Street site. Very simple, it's a similar situation. That was a condition we put on Hamilton Street. And if you remember, we had a lot of neighbors over several nights who didn't want that in their backyard. There's no one speaking against this. I don't think it's a big ask. You've
I don't
already.
think it's a big ask either, because that's what we're gonna do. So if you feel comfortable with that, we're gonna do the right thing.
I just want to put it as a condition, that's all. Just like we do elsewhere.
Attorney, how do you?
Agreed to it, it sounds like to me.
I mean, that's my ask. The board someone else can vote it down. You can vote no in the conditions if you want. My other ask is that it's, I'm not quite sure how to word this, maybe the applicant can help, and that it's to be used as an assisted living facility only. and explicitly no independent living.
We would just have to go to my lawyer, but we would just have to reference the court order. That this building would be built to the court order that we got.
Sure, so if you can help with that wording, I'd be fine with that.
How long's the court order? How long's the court order for? Like, does it say a specific timeframe that this has to be used for assisted living
no,
or perpetuity?
No, it interprets the zoning bylaw as to what, how you count assisted living units in terms of density, essentially. And the court's judgment was that independent living would be akin to an apartment or just a residential unit. But assisted living falls into a different use category, and so the density is calculated differently.
So speaking to that, I don't think it could be turned into an apartment building or assisted living, but I think that's the way the court order reads. It would be assisted living and memory care and not independent living.
That's what I'm trying to get at, and I want to put it as a condition. So is there a court order, is there a number or some sort of reference for that? That we can put it as a condition?
I can provide that.
Okay.
For your decision.
Okay, so let's have the condition then that it's to be used for assisted living, not independent living, as referenced in court order such and such that Mr. Schumber will provide in perpetuity.
That's fine, yeah.
And where were you on the first condition?
I second it. The initial condition that Peter made, I second.
The initial condition was that there be medical staff available, and you agreed that there would be staff available from 7 to
16 hours a day.
16 hours a day.
You can test to.
All right, so if we say the petitioner is agreeing that they will have medical staff, can you do it 24 hours?
I don't know that answer. I'm not going to be running it.
Okay. I don't know, can they?
Don't they?
I just think these conditions with the ZBA, then planning board and everything else, by the time you're done, what do you do?
I don't know how it works with the planning board.
Yeah.
He, from his experience, he's just nervous with these conditions and going to the planning board. We have to understand what they are, you know? I don't know how that works.
So, as part of the master plan approval, the planning board could put those kind of conditions on you, I believe. And if they can do that, you're required to obtain the master plan approval, which could include that condition.
Well, the court order we have.
Yeah.
So the assisted living is licensed by EOEA.
Yeah.
The whole building's gonna be licensed as EOEA, right? It's all gonna be licensed as assisted living. We're required to staff per EOEA requirements that are subject to annual survey. Right? So we have to meet all those requirements.
Okay,
Right.
so I don't know what those requirements are and how many hours a day they, what the staffing level is and what the duration is during the day for your medical personnel to be present?
We're not a skilled nursing facility. We don't provide 24 hours of care. Okay, we provide hours of care with daily living needs, bathing, med management, med reminders, and stuff like that. This is not a nursing.
RN just live in the building.
I'm not suggesting it is.
We do have a wellness staff that's there for 2 shifts.
And that's why I want to add it as a condition. Because if we don't, then we're going to have more calls to our emergency services.
Respectfully, Mr. Chair, I think the problem with this condition is that it's imposing requirements above and beyond what the state government tells an assisted living facility has to do. It's turning an assisted living facility into a skilled care or a nursing facility. I think it's I think it's first of all preempted by state law. I think you're way out on a limb on this one. It's essentially akin to a denial. It's you're opposing conditions that would make the project unfeasible.
The only condition I'm imposing with the medical, we're asking to impose, is what you've already volunteered. So all of the testimony you gave us and the decision that this board is being asked to make is based upon, in part, what you've told us. And I'm not changing that whatsoever. I'm asking you to put that as a condition.
They come back and say the planning board might have an issue with it.
It's the planning board's business.
But you saying the 16 hours or whatever is okay with you as opposed to 24?
I asked for 16 or more hours of medical coverage, as they suggested originally.
16 is what they agreed to.
And I just want to put it as a condition. I'm not changing anything.
I want to be clear. I don't think we may have gotten our signals crossed there. I'm not sure that there was an agreement on 16 hours.
We're gonna meet all, Dave's telling me all the AEO, what do you call it?
EOEA.
EO requirements. So whatever those requirements are for this facility, that's what we're gonna meet.
See, that's in part my point.
Right.
The requirements are what they are today.
Right.
Maybe there's some, and this is not a far-fetched scenario, maybe there's some sort of a government cutback coming where those requirements become much lower. And now there's, much less coverage required by this EOEA. I don't want that to affect what's at this site. That's why I'm suggesting to put it as a condition. So that if that agency, or whatever they're called, department changes their rules, we're not impacted here. That's all.
But wouldn't we be stuck to the rules that when we get it approved? When we get licensed, when he gets licensed at that point? Wouldn't the condition be when we get licensed at that point? Otherwise, they'd have to get relicensed.
But don't those requirements change over time?
They're always changing, and typically they get more restrictive.
So we would meet all those requirements at the time of licenses and maintain those requirements the life of this facility.
And would that be an acceptable condition that the operator maintains licensing in good standing, meeting all current state government requirements?
I feel that, I'm fine with that.
It's just that he feels if we get Pacific at the Board of Appeals, we don't know what's gonna happen.
I'm fine with that,
We would
Mr.
meet
Rossetti.
all the requirements that are needed to get permitted, and we would maintain all those requirements as long as that facility is permitted for that site. I mean, God forbid one day we tore it down and built a school there, I don't know, but that would be the requirement of that permit. To meet, we couldn't go below those standards, the state wouldn't allow it. And he's, like David said, he does this every day, they keep going up, they don't go down. And it's not a government-ran operation, it's a privately owned operation. So.
Yeah, it's a fair ask, I guess. But the point I mentioned earlier, we had another facility, a little bit different, but fairly similar, in front of us less than a year ago, in a residential neighborhood, nothing but residential neighborhood. The residents really didn't want it. And the applicant stepped up and said, I'm gonna put more security here, I'm gonna put more medical coverage here than what's required. And to me, just as one vote on the board, that went a long way to me voting yes on it. So that's why I'm suggesting the same thing here. I know you're gonna keep this EOEA licensure to stay in business, I get it. Just don't think it's a huge ask.
I think there's a much different requirement and overall difference between a rehab and assisted living though too.
Yeah.
I mean, they fall under two completely different sets of standards. Just my thought, I mean.
Well, can I ask, what was the other place that you put the condition on? What was
There's a rehab center.
Rehab site on
So
Hamilton
rehab
Street.
center,
Roughly 40 beds.
so that's licensed under the Department of Public Health. So
I understand that they're not the same thing.
It's totally different.
I'm not suggesting that they're the same thing. I'm suggesting that for our little town, it's similar.
And we're not in a residential neighborhood.
And if I had neighbors that are concerned, I've done everything this town's asked me to do with that site, I would accommodate the neighbors. Right now, I'm the neighbor. So I'm gonna make sure I get accommodated. But if we were in a residential neighborhood, I'm gonna accommodate in person. I do other developments. I built the houses behind the Kowloon years ago with George Gregson. I've done other stuff in this town and a lot of stuff in other towns. So I'm gonna accommodate in person. So if there was people here tonight with concerns of safety or gates or whatever, I would meet those concerns. When we met with the department heads, the fire chief said to me, Mike, your camera system is the best. You know, we give them access to it. The fire department says the same thing. So I'm gonna accommodate in person. Scott Phelan, who's in fire prevention, takes people to tours of my buildings at least every 3 weeks. Because that's how quality that I am. We're family operated. My daughter works there, my son-in-law, myself. So I am that type of person. So if there was concerns here tonight from other people, we would make those accommodations. But what we're willing to do is meet all the requirements that the state's gonna do to run a first-class facility. And we'll commit to that and keep to that standard. And nothing less, because they won't let them stay open.
Right?
And if the standards change, they have to change statewide. It's not that you can say, okay, this place in Saugus is gonna have its own separate standard. It's gonna be the whole state that changes, and that isn't gonna happen.
Let's get back on what we
Yeah.
have for a motion and what the conditions are.
But we had the motion, we had the two conditions that you were recommending.
Yep, okay, so I'll suggest we take away the 16 hours per day and add as a condition EOEA licensure compliance.
And then the second.
And the second condition that it's to be used for an assisted living facility and explicitly not
For
independent.
the court order.
In other words, there's
Or
not
a
gonna
court
be
order.
apartments.
Such and such.
Is that satisfactory?
Sounds great to us.
Okay. Attorney? Sure.
Okay.
Entirely up to you, Mr. Chair and board members.
The two conditions, so the two conditions,
And every, understand, you still go to the selectmen, you still go to the selectmen looking for the other 13 feet.
right, okay, but,
I would just need a second.
Second?
oh,
Second.
yeah, I thought we had the second.
I had a second. No, the two conditions weren't seconded, and I will second them.
Okay, we got
All right,
both of them seconds.
Stephanie, a vote?
Mr. Rossetti?
Yes.
Ms. Romano?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Travers?
Yes. No, that's it.
Okay.
Thank you
Thank you very much for the time tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate your time and everything. Thank you.
Need that vote.
Thank you.
Okay. These poor people who are waiting.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you for your patience.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can we
Yes.
take the next one for Amazon out of order, since they're not here, so we can get to the other people faster?
Well, Amazon, I'm just gonna state the fact that Amazon, did we get a formal letter, Stephanie?
Yes, I left it in the
Yes, it was,
Asking
it
for
was
a
included
continuance?
in one of the other packages.
The packet that went.
Yeah.
Oh, you, all right.
Yeah,
So we have, that's been continued.
yeah.
Do we need to vote on that?
Motion to, to continue, to our next hearing.
To make?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do we have a second on that?
Second.
Right, Stephanie?
Mr. Rossetti?
Yes.
Ms. Romano?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Federico?
Yes.
Ms. Romano? Yes.
Yeah, we got everybody. You have 5. Get 5 on that.
Passes 7-0.
Okay.
Yeah, I have it. I just didn't-
Now we're on the petition of the Fitter Family Realty Trust, owners of property at 12 Ledwidge Road, lot number 606, plan number 1036, seeking a special permit for a family accessory dwelling by converting the basement. And the petitioner's representative?
Yes, I need to recuse myself for this. I did work at this property.
I'm sorry, Mr. Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening, Attorney Albadotto on behalf of the petitioners. My office is at 316 Central Street in
Okay.
Saugus. I represent Louis and John Finicaro. They're the trustees of the trust that own the property at 12 Ledgewood Road in Saugus. They're seeking an accessory building site in the basement of their home. I believe a plan may have been already submitted. I did not have the affidavit and the other form until the 18th, but I do have those filled out and I can give them to, yes, that's it. I have one, actually. I just want to make sure you had one. And I can give those to Stephanie before I go. So you have the plans before you, you have photographs before you as well. Right now, there is not an occupant to the household.
The daughter, there's no one in there right now?
There is no one there right now.
Okay.
Who is going to go there?
Well, originally,
Family member?
it was a family member, but I think the house is up for sale now. And the sale, it was going to be the mother of the homeowner, the person that was buying was his mother. Because they were both downsizing from their homes in Saugus. They both sold homes in Saugus. And the dad was going to live with his children, and then mom was going to live downstairs. But the dad's house had a problem at the sale, and so they're in a very difficult predicament at the moment. So
going through or not.
yeah, so we don't know.
Okay.
Right.
As I think you probably understand, this board is going through a lot where the governor came out in February with these accessory units by right, and when we had our own existing thing, on the books anyway. But you do have by right to have an accessory unit inside of a building. It's there by right. Now, it's not by a special permit. I know that the building department would require them to put a second egress, I think they need to put in the basement.
I think there is a second egress. There's one through the household and then one that goes out into the backyard. So there is a second egress. It's not built to be a separate unit, though. It's built to be part of a family situation. Just to give you the idea of where the property is, and it was never meant to be a separate sort of income-producing property or anything. It's meant to be a family
I
situation.
got it, so it's just like, it's where do we fit it? In
Yes.
our existing bylaw?
Yes.
Or the new state thing? You might not know this, do you know if utilities, is there a separate electrical board?
There is not. It's
all one electrical board?
That's correct.
So I think that in itself puts us under our existing bylaw, because it's not separate. So as it being a family unit.
Yeah, it's not metered separately. There's not 2 meters on the property. There's one water meter, there's one everything.
Well, they look at more at.
Heating and electric, the
more
gas is
safety
one.
for- Like the person in that unit was able to get there to shut off the breakers and such.
Oh, well, that I'm not aware of.
Well,
I'm not exactly
under
sure
the
where
new-
they're
On the
located.
new plan, that's where, but on the existing plan, like this is a family unit, you have one breaker in the house.
Right, and
It's
the door
really
doesn't
one big
lock,
house.
so to
Right,
go to
it's
the other
open
units.
free.
Yeah.
The thing is, we're being asked to approve it for a family unit without having a tenant down there. I don't think there's a problem, Mr. Rossetti, where you,
They would have to apply for with the
are
town
you sitting on this?
and fill out the affidavit, that kind of thing.
I have the affidavit here, that,
Of a
of the
tenant?
application.
Yeah.
Well, it suggests that there would be a tenant, but it was supposed to be a family situation. So
Yeah, I'm trying to work.
the
on it.
portion about the tenant,
Trying to
I just
figure out
left
how we're-
blank.
We're proving it without having the tenant there. Originally, I thought it was presented as if the Finicaro's child was still living down there and she was gonna be, that child was gonna be.
That's true, they were, and then they decided to sell to a family that had the dad with the children and the mother, so the application stayed the way it was. But that just happened probably Friday, that situation,
Do you know if Louis Dawn, is their child still in the house?
no, she is not.
She's moved
Yeah,
out.
yes.
Okay.
So did Louis and Dawn.
Well, they were out too.
Because the new family was coming,
Oh, is that
which the
close?
application was based on, correct?
Okay.
Well, the new person would have to be a family member.
Yes.
Of whoever is moving in. So we could condition it on it being approved by the town for being a family member of whoever the person is.
Yeah.
That would be fine. That would
They
be
might have to
fine.
come back in front of us.
That would be fine as well. I don't
I
mind.
understand what they're trying to do, that they just want to make sure that the house can go on the market sale a little bit, the units can be
Correct.
allowed.
Correct,
I understand their purpose to it.
correct.
But how do we approve it without having done it down there?
Well, you could make the condition,
Oh, we
as
can make
Mr.
it
Rossetti
conditional.
suggested, that it be a family member, that it not be a tenant to the unit, so that it's allowed
Right,
for
that it'd
family,
be a-
and then when the
town
new
of
owner,
Saugus ADU,
yeah,
following those guidelines,
Yes.
which allows, and I went over the square footage, you allowed 900 square feet. Looks like it might, you can go 10% higher.
it's
with the
just
town
under, I
bylaw.
think, but, yeah.
So if it's 900, it was 950, 960, that's okay, under the town bylaw.
860.
It's 860,
what it
yeah.
How'd we come up with that, Anthony? I didn't go. We were higher than that, weren't we?
Listed on the
Took out a hallway.
Okay. We took out a hallway? Okay. Peter, you wanna make a motion?
Sure. Okay, on the petition of Finacharo, it's gonna be the Finacharo, or who's the? buyer?
Finicaro right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Finacharo Family Realty
Motion to,
Trust.
sorry, motion to close.
I'm sorry, what?
Motion to close.
Motion to close the hearing.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, Sean, second?
Second.
Okay. Okay, motion. On the petition of Finacaro Family Realty Trust, owners of property at 12 Ledgewood Road, Lot 606, Plan 1036, seeking a special permit for a family accessory dwelling by converting the basement. And that would be it, special permit. Okay, grounds for the special permit would be no more detrimental. And it would be conditioned on it being,
Do we have anything from the fire department or any,
I have the
That would be
accessory
part of-
dwelling,
part of the-
site document that I'm turning to Stephanie this evening before I leave.
okay, does that have the fire department?
It does, it's from the fire department, from the Saugus
Okay.
Fire Department, it's their form.
Okay,
okay. And the condition would be that the accessory dwelling unit would be occupied by a family member of the owner of the
At the owner of the property.
property, okay? And if it's a
Wonderful.
trust or whatever,
and I just wanna comment too, that unless it's 6 months ago, we wouldn't have done this.
yeah.
But now with what happened in February with by right, you can have a unit down there. It can make it kind of a moot point.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, but I think it goes a little bit easier, I think, for when it's being home. But if they found somebody and it wasn't gonna be a family member, they can also come back to us. And we can try to deal with that. Let them know if they're going through a situation where it wasn't family,
Yeah.
it was gonna be down there.
They
Yeah,
can't.
no,
new
they
buy-
really
they
can't,
don't know when the new
it's
buyer's
not,
gonna
yeah,
be.
it's not, right, it's really not
It's not
built
the
that
type
way,
of
but,
house.
yeah, it's not that kind of
Plus
place,
house, I
right.
understand. All right, do I have a second to Peter's motion?
Second.
Chris. Okay, Chris, second.
Okay.
Mr. Rossetti?
Yes.
Ms. Romano?
Oh, I believe I was.
Oh, I apologize. Mr. Riley?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Ms. Herman Durant? Yes. Mr. Travis?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're all set. Good, thanks.
Thank you.
Good luck.
All right, thanks.
Okay. Now, after someone's bedtime.
be right with you.
Oh, man, we should have had you go first. We're so sorry.
Next time, in the beginning of the meeting, when he says, if you have a good reason to want to be taken out of order,
Yeah,
speak up.
It's
our first time, it's the first time
A little kid is definitely a good reason.
Yeah,
Sorry.
he's watching some YouTube.
Yeah.
He's happy.
No.
He's watching the NFL draft.
Which one are we on? We're on
Magnolia?
Magnolia. All right, I got a little bit confused by this. Like why we're here. On the petition of Elias Garcia, on the property of 50 Magnolia, lot number 202-2, plan number 1031, speak of special permit for a family accessory dwelling. This is a new owner transfer request. Just trying to give me an idea of what you're doing. Are you just recently bought the house?
Yes, well, let me first say, I guess, instead of good afternoon, good night. Yeah, so I purchased this house in 2017, and it was listed as a legal in-law apartment, which I later found out it was really a variance granted. I didn't know I had to transfer the variance when I purchased the home, so I just got.
All right, so
you know.
have you had a tenant in there since?
No, I live there. It's just family. I actually live in the in-law. My parents live on the first floor.
Okay.
So your parents are living in the house with you?
Yeah.
Okay, and it's like a duplex?
It's a split ranch. It's a split ranch. So the in-law or
They're in
the
the
variance is
basement?
down below. Yeah.
Right, and it was granted before for the property?
It was all permitted. It was
So
granted.
It's
It was.
really just a change of
It's just a
ownership.
change of name because I'm not doing anything to it. So.
Okay. Did you fill out the application or the paperwork? with
I
that?
did. Yep. I
You
filled the
got-
application. I paid the fee.
You did the fire department thing?
The fire department thing.
Did you get?
No.
They have to
I mailed it to you, so, but it went late, so I don't know if you just didn't receive it yet.
Oh, it's. I mean, I could do it. It's not.
We'll make it contingent upon,
Yeah, I
they
could
just
fill
come in
it out
and
and bring
check
it to the office. No
they're
problem.
gonna come in and check your smoke detectors,
Yeah, that's fine.
okay? But other than that, the property is, you've got everything that's needed. How big is it?
Downstairs minus a utility, it's 900 square feet or less.
About 900 square feet?
Yeah.
You got
unless
two
it's-
egresses?
I got 3 egresses. I got one on each side and then the main
Okay.
front.
So it was we approved it before?
Yeah, it was all already approved prior. It's really
The only
just.
conditions that I see, just making sure that we hit, well, I know,
You settle it.
things change in 8 years too.
Yeah.
So that's why I just have to question. All right,
Want me to read?
yeah, who's out on this one? Chris
I'll
and
be
John
out
are
of
out.
this. I'll volunteer.
All right,
Good?
Chris and John are out.
Okay. Okay.
Go ahead, Steve.
You want me to do it, or who has it?
Oh, that's my neighbor.
You can do it.
Okay. On the petition of Elias Garcia, owner of property 15 Magnolia Street, lot 202-2, plan 1031, seeking special permit for a family accessory dwelling. This is a new owner transfer request. Grounds for the special permit would be no more detrimental, and it would be conditioned that it has to be a family member living in the unit, that it be no more than 900 square feet, that it be inspected by the fire department, and that you fill out the permit with the town.
Okay.
I second it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Mr. Rubin?
Stephanie?
Mr. Rubin?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Federico?
Yes.
Ms. Herman Yes. Mr. Travis?
Yes. You're all set. Thank you for
Awesome.
your patience.
Great, thank you.
Sorry if you
Next time, just go
Bedtime.
first. Okay. Pleasure.
Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Okay. Motion to adjourn, you didn't want to talk.
Motion to adjourn?
You're good at that, John.